12 Beatles songs that prove their timeless genius. Not the hits you're thinking of, the craft underneath, the studio wizardry nobody talks about, the moments where they stopped being a band and became architects of sound itself. You've heard these songs your whole life, but you don't know how they were actually built. And once you do, you'll never hear them the same way again. Number 12, Norwegian Wood, This Bird Has Flown.
She showed me a room.
George Harrison brought a sitar into Abbey Road in 1965. First time a Western pop song had ever done that. And here's what most people miss. It wasn't about being exotic. It was about finding a new color for the palette.
It's time for bed.
The song itself is deceptively simple. Acoustic guitars, that sitar line weaving through, but listen to the structure. The melody moves in ways that shouldn't work in a pop song. Minor key melancholy wrapped in major key resolution. And that sitar doesn't play the melody. It plays around the melody, creating space where there shouldn't be any.
Biding my time, drinking her wine.
They recorded it in October 1965. By 1966, every band in London was scrambling to find a sitar player. But here's the thing about influence. Most bands heard the instrument. The Beatles understood what the instrument could do. They weren't chasing sounds. They were building new languages. And if you were around when this first hit radio, you heard something that didn't exist before that moment.
It's time for bed.
Number 11, In My Life.
Forever, not for better.
This one's from Rubber Soul, 1965. John wrote it as a love letter to his past. Liverpool streets, childhood friends, the weight of memory, simple enough concept. Then George Martin sat down at the piano. But here's what happened in that studio. They wanted a baroque sound, but it needed to be faster than any human could play. So Martin played the solo at half speed, then they sped the tape back up. What you hear on the record is a harpsichord sound that technically shouldn't exist. And that's the craft right there. The song sounds timeless because they use technology to create something that feels ancient and futuristic at the same time. You're hearing both 1780 and 1965 in the same breath. The melody itself does something most pop songs avoid. It pauses right where you expect momentum. Those silences between phrases force you to feel the weight of what's being said. This isn't background music. This is a song that demands you stop what you're doing and listen. By the time that piano solo hits, you're not thinking about technique. You're thinking about every place you've ever loved and left behind.
Let's look at the numbers. Only 9% of you are actually subscribed. Honestly, that's tough to see. Our team spends days hunting down archives and verifying every single fact just to tell these stories right. If you've made it this far into the video, you're clearly part of the community, so please hit subscribe. It costs nothing and helps us immensely. Now, for those already subscribed, very few of you have made the jump to our membership, and that's a hard pill to swallow because you're the ones who know our value best. If this channel has moved you or inspired you, consider joining. It's the price of one coffee, but it's the literal fuel for this channel. Let's keep this alive together. Back to the story.
Number 10, Here Comes the Sun. George Harrison wrote this in Eric Clapton's garden in 1969. He just walked out of another tense Apple Corps meeting. And if you've ever needed to escape something that was slowly crushing you, you know where this song comes from. The guitar part is fingerpicked in a pattern that mimics sunrise, starts quiet, builds, opens up. Then there's that Moog synthesizer underneath. First time the Beatles used one, And they didn't use it to sound futuristic. They used it to sound warm. Listen to the bridge section. Time signature shifts to 11/8, then back to 4/4. On paper, that should confuse listeners, but you don't hear it as complex. You hear it as natural as breathing. That's mastery, making the difficult sound inevitable. This was George's moment. After years in John and Paul's shadow, he delivered 2 songs on Abbey Road that most bands would build entire careers around. And this one became the sound of hope itself. Some of y'all heard this for the first time during a hard year, and it carried you through. That's what genius does. Number 9, Come Together. Abbey Road opens with this one, 1969. And if you know bass guitar, you already know why this matters. Paul McCartney's bass line is doing half the work of 3 instruments. The groove is almost funk, not quite rock, somewhere between. And that was intentional. They wanted something that felt wrong in all the right ways. John's vocal is run through a heavy compression effect that makes it sound like it's coming through a telephone. Not clean, not polished, gritty, and immediate. Here's the craft. The song doesn't have a traditional chorus, it's all verse, but it never feels repetitive because the bass is telling a different story each time through. Paul's not just holding down the rhythm, he's composing a counter melody. Come together right now. And those hand claps, that electric piano, the way Ringo's kick drum hits just behind the beat instead of on it. Every element is slightly off center, and somehow that creates perfect balance. You know that moment when the song kicks in and your shoulders start moving before your brain catches up? That's architecture. That's 4 guys who understood groove at a molecular level. You know me. One thing I can tell you. Number 8, Happiness is a Warm Gun. With the multicolored mirrors on his hobnail boots. This one's from the White Album, 1968, and it's not really one song. It's 4 completely different sections welded together into something that shouldn't work. Opens with a doo-wop style harmony, then shifts into a harder rock section, then drops into a slow, intimate middle part, then explodes into that final section with the repeated title phrase. Different time signatures, different tempos, different keys. On paper, it's chaos. But here's what makes it genius. Each section flows into the next like it was always meant to be there. They recorded 70 takes trying to nail the transitions. And you can hear why. One wrong note, one hesitation, and the whole thing collapses. John called this his favorite Beatles song, not because it was easy, because it was hard, because it required every member to be locked in at the exact same moment or it wouldn't work. Listen to how Ringo's drums change personality 4 times in 3 minutes. Listen to Paul's bass following the vocal melody in that slow section. This is beyond tight. This is 4 musicians thinking as one organism, and that part still gets me. The audacity of splicing 4 songs together and making it sound inevitable. Number 7, While My Guitar Gently Weeps. And I see it needs sweeping. George Harrison wrote this in 1968, and he knew it needed something they couldn't do themselves. So he brought in Eric Clapton, not for flash, for weight. Clapton's guitar tone on this track was achieved by running his signal through a special circuit that gave it that weeping, crying quality, not distortion, something more human than that. And the solo doesn't show off. It mourns. But here's what people miss. Still my guitar, the song structure itself is what makes it timeless. It's built on a descending chromatic bass line. Same technique Bach used, same technique jazz musicians had been using for decades. George took that classical foundation and wrapped it in psychedelic production and blues guitar. The White Album was the Beatles at their most fractured. 4 individuals pulling in different directions. But on this track, you hear them unified. John on rhythm guitar, Paul on piano, Ringo on drums that breathe with the vocal, and Clapton's guitar saying everything the words can't. You know what's wild? George almost didn't include this on the album. Thought it wasn't good enough? Sometimes genius doesn't recognize itself. Number 6, I Am the Walrus, Magical Mystery Tour, 1967. John Lennon at his most surrealist, and the production matches the madness of the lyrics. They brought in a full orchestra, not for melody, for texture. Listen to those string slides that sound almost sickening. That's intentional. They wanted you uncomfortable, and underneath it all, there's a radio broadcast spliced in at random, literally turned on a radio during the recording, and whatever was playing got mixed into the track. The chorus uses a choir singing nonsense syllables, 8 session singers brought in to vocalize pure absurdity, and somehow it's catchy. Somehow you remember every goo goo gajoob. But here's the craft. Beneath all that chaos, there's a solid song structure. Verse, chorus, verse, chorus. The arrangement is wild, but the bones are traditional. That's how they got away with it. They gave you something familiar to hold on to while everything else spun out of control. And that mellotron part in the intro, those swooping sounds that feel like falling, you've heard 1,000 songs try to replicate that feeling since. But you remember the first time you heard this one do it. Number 5, Something. George Harrison's masterpiece, Abbey Road, 1969. And we know it matters because Frank Sinatra called it the greatest love song of the past 50 years. Coming from a man who'd sung every standard ever written, that's not a compliment, that's a coronation. The genius is in what the song doesn't do. It never says, I love you, never uses those words. Instead, it circles around the feeling, describing the effect someone has without naming the cause. And that makes it more powerful than any direct statement ever could. George wrote this as his first A-side Beatles single. After years of getting 1 or 2 songs per album, he delivered something so undeniable that even John and Paul had to step aside. And here's what's beautiful. He wasn't trying to compete with them. He was trying to express something true. The guitar tone, that string arrangement, the way the vocal melody climbs and falls, every element serves the emotion. Nothing's there for decoration. Everything earns its place. Sinatra recorded it twice. Elvis covered it. Over 150 artists have recorded versions. And none of them quite capture what George did with his voice and that guitar. Some songs belong to the person who wrote them. Number 4, Eleanor Rigby.
The wedding has been, lives in a dream.
1966, Revolver. And here's what makes this revolutionary. No guitars, no drums, no rock instrumentation whatsoever. Just an 8-piece string section and voices.
Donning his socks in the night when there's nobody there.
Paul McCartney wanted the strings to sound biting. Not lush, not romantic, sharp, and uncomfortable. So George Martin wrote an arrangement inspired by Bernard Herrmann's score for Psycho. And engineer Jeff Emmerich placed microphones inches from the instruments, something classical musicians had never experienced before. They were horrified.
All the lonely people, where do they all?
The result is strings that sound almost violent, staccato stabs that match the loneliness in the lyrics. And the lyrics themselves, third-person perspective, no I or you, like a short story set to music. This was Paul becoming a composer, not just a songwriter.
All the lonely people.
And here's what nobody talks about, and this became a hit. A song with no rock instruments singing about death and isolation went to #1 in multiple countries because the craft was so undeniable that genre didn't matter anymore. You've heard this 1,000 times, but listen again to how those strings attack. That's not background, that's the story itself.
But he came, Father Mackenzie, wiping the dirt from me.
Number 3, Strawberry Fields Forever.
Get hung about. Strawberry.
John Lennon wrote this in Spain while filming How I Won the War, 1966. Took him 6 weeks. Then they spent 45 hours recording it over 5 weeks. But here's where it gets impossible. They recorded 2 completely different versions. Different keys, different tempos, different instrumentation. John loved the beginning of the first version and the end of the second, so he asked George Martin to edit them together.
Younger, so much younger than today.
Martin said it couldn't be done, different keys, different tempos, but John just said, you can fix it, George. And somehow, by slowing down one take and speeding up the other, they found the exact point where the pitches and tempos matched. The edit happens exactly 1 minute in on the word going. And you've probably never noticed, because the craftsmanship is so precise that 2 impossible pieces became one seamless whole. The song itself sounds like a fever dream. Mellotron flutes played backward, swarming doll, cellos, brass. Every sound chosen to make you feel unmoored from reality. Because that's what the song is about. John's childhood, memory, the blurred line between what's real and what we wish was real. This wasn't just recording, this was architecture at the atomic level. Number 2, Tomorrow Never Knows. April 1966, first song recorded for Revolver. And it's the moment the Beatles invented the future. Each band member went home with a tape recorder and created loops, sounds manipulated by slowing down, speeding up, reversing, saturating. They brought in over 30 tape loops. 5 of them made it onto the final track. But here's how they did it. 5 separate tape machines running simultaneously, each playing a different loop, with studio staff holding pencils to keep the tape taut. Engineer Jeff Emmerich in the control room, creating a live mix that was impossible to reproduce. John's vocal was fed through a rotating Leslie speaker, giving it that otherworldly quality. Ringo's drums are locked into a hypnotic pattern that never changes. And underneath it all, those loops create a soundscape that didn't exist before this song. Music historians call this one of the pioneering works in electronic music. This is the Beatles using the studio as an instrument, not recording a performance, creating something that could only exist on tape. You know what's crazy? This was 1966. Most bands were still figuring out how to use reverb, and the Beatles were already 10 years ahead. Number 1, A Day in the Life. Sgt Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, 1967. The song that proved rock music could be art, they brought in a 40-piece orchestra, not to play a written score, to improvise. George Martin gave them one instruction: start at the lowest note your instrument can play, end at the highest, and everyone take your own path to get there.
Found the way upstairs and had a smoke.
The orchestra members wore fake noses and novelty items, and the whole session became a happening. Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, Donovan all showed up to watch. But here's the technical miracle: 2 4-track tape machines running in sync, something that had never been done before. Engineer Ken Townsend invented the method the morning of the session, and it worked on the first try.
They had to count them all. Now they know.
The song took 34 hours to record. Their first album, Please Please Me, was recorded in 15 hours total. This was evolution in real time. That final piano chord, John, Paul, Ringo, and Mal Evans all hitting E major on 3 different pianos simultaneously, holding it until the sound decayed into silence. 40 seconds of sustain.
Today, oh boy.
And what's the song about? Reading a newspaper? An ordinary day? They took the mundane and made it monumental. That's genius. Taking what everyone sees and making them feel it for the first time.